All right, let's take a look. I went back inside and took some more meat out of those transfers. All right. So, before they were extremely shallow, and now they're back to the original depth, but there's enough of the marine text in there to really take up a good bit of volume. And we curve it out up towards the intake nicely. Hopefully this will work. There's only one thing we can do, and that is to see. At the bottom there, they're the full size of what they were. And now a lot of, two-stroke rebuilder. Whenever I was like, hey, it ain't working, I don't know why. And you replied, you put JB Weld in the transfers. I got a real chuckle out of that. I don't know if you meant it to be funny or if you meant it to go, duh, man. Whatever. But it made me realize maybe folks don't know. And I went, I bet you anything they don't. So, long time has it stood that you're supposed to get a lot of volume. And I've said it a jillion times, stop getting volume. Stop doing it. Stop it. The only time volume helps you is, well, I guess in a situation where you don't have enough volume, I suppose. There's that. Or if you put a bigger carburetor on there and you have the ability to feed a bigger volume. Otherwise, almost always you have too much volume. This is exactly the reason why a 550 Mark II versus a 545 runs stronger, is because they take up the volume on the crankcase. There's like literally no other reason. So if you want to run at higher RPMs, right, you either have to dump a huge amount of fuel and air in, which is not possible for me because I'm running with the exact same stock carburetor and stuff, or you have to minimize your volume. So, I mean, there's more than one way to skin a cat. This is just a method. And contrary to what some folks might think, this is a very well-known, it's not very well-known, actually. This is a known method. I am just failing at it, okay? Hopefully, I just fixed it right here and right now because I didn't have enough volume, right? If you don't have enough volume, you got a problem. There has to be a proper balance. But I'm not the first person to do this. I guess that's the way to put it. So if you think this is crazy, why would you go the opposite direction, right? Well, it's because a lot has been learned since 1970. All right. So that two-stroke, the Tuner's Handbook, is a great guide. However, I don't own one. Why? Because I know what it says ad nauseum, okay? And that book was written in the 70s, early 70s, I believe. And yeah, it's a great book, but it doesn't always hold sway, and new techniques have come about, and I am interested in the new stuff. So, yeah, it's perfectly normal activity, what I'm doing by filling the transfers with JB Weld. It's just not very well known because so many people love seeing that really hogged out port. And so, since you like seeing it, you go, well, it obviously works. Not true. You know what no one likes to see? A Honda Civic with big fat slicks on the front of it and skinny tires on the back. They're like, what? That's stupid looking. You're right, it is. But they hustle down the track. And that's kind of my point. We like that hogged out port look, but I am telling you, I am screaming to the world, sometimes it's better to go small. And hopefully this is going to work. We'll see. All right, before I close this all up, I figured I'd give you a better view of what's going on with the carburetor and that velocity stack. I will, and if I don't remember, just put a comment in there. Where's the link? You know, I will find a link for this on Amazon, right? The purchasing of it. Anyways, I've had this for months and just waiting for something to put it on. Here it is. Now the hole that's in there was only, I think, 16 millimeter or maybe even smaller. So I had to bore it out. Now, lucky for me, I have a lathe and I could just pretty easily bore it out. So, but if you had got one and you don't have a lathe, you'd have to sit there with a Dremel or a rotary tool of some sort. Or I suppose you could just drill it out. But anyways, yeah. The throttle there, you see it, was hitting the bottom of this filter. So I literally notched it like that. And once all said and done though, it goes on there fairly simple. There we go. And it looks cool. All right, now this is a small filter, and I will say that I'm pretty sure that, is it, you know, I mean, is it actually adding more airflow? I don't know, probably not, but it looks cool. So, and you know, if you know me, you know that I go in for the cool looking stuff. All right, so the only thing I got left to do here now is put the top cover back on. Choke still works. We're good. And we're about ready to take this out, go put it in the wood, and see if it's faster now. Pretty slick, you know. It would be better to have a bigger filter, and I could at some point put a bigger filter on there, but I ain't going to today. Okay, she's running cool as a cucumber. Still doesn't want to cut in the higher RPMs. I mean, it's perfectly good. I could just go with it as it is and probably not be embarrassed. But I think that it needs even more timing advance. Nutso, huh? Because if you look at it, okay, so we're flowing good now, I think, all right? But if you look at it with the port work that's done, my exhaust roof is at like 96.5-ish, right? The transfers come open at 112 degrees. Got a really tight crankcase. I've taken up a bunch of extra space and everything. So realistically, it should be capable of climbing into the higher RPM range. The intake is probably holding it back significantly. Maybe at this point I'll try a different carburetor. Or maybe I'll, you know, it should be climbing. It can't be the ignition. It can't be the timing advance, because I've got it like it's 11 degrees advanced. 10.8 is the timing advance it has. It's probably being held back by the intake / carburetor. I don't know what I'm going to do next. Might just run it like this. Might totally do something else. Oh, the RPMs. It's tuning in at about 13.3, 13.2, 13,200 RPMs, which is a low tune-in for a saw that's supposed to be screaming. In the cut, some of the cuts whenever it was colder was 10,500. You know, even in the meat of the cut, never dropping below 10,000 RPMs. But most of the stuff, especially once warmed, whenever it gets to the meat of the cut, it is dropping down into the 9,000 RPM range. This chain is made by Curtis. All right, he's just a viewer of the channel, and the chain is cutting well. However, this is for your knowledge, Curtis. I think a stock one would cut better. So it's just kind of aggressive and kind of, you know, and that could work with a saw that's got a little bit more power. But with this saw right here, I think it probably would cut just a smidge faster with a stock steel RS chain. But he's come up with a really nifty little way to do sort of a square grind, and I like it. It's good, right? But to be honest, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's extremely difficult to beat a 325 steel RS out of the box. They are the equivalent of the Husqvarna C83 in 3/8 configuration. Don't know what I'm going to do now. Might look into different carburetor options. Because, yeah, if I had to put some money on it, my money would be that the carburetor is holding it back at this point. So now we got to figure out, is there a different option? I like what Dubs did. Dubs Saw Shop. I have 2 of those carburetors. They are the carburetors for a Chinese clone saw for the 6200. He was able to just bolt that right on there and get it to match up pretty easily. And I might look at doing something like that. But those carbs are not here yet. I don't know if they'll be here before the race. And I don't know, maybe I'll make a whole new intake block so that I could bolt on a 372 carb or something like that. I'll get to looking at the at the linkages and things and see if there's something else that matches up that would make it better. But yeah, at least it's running pretty good, you know. But good enough? No, it's not. And that's why the Horizontal Hustle is featuring a Husqvarna 55 open port. There are a ton of them out there. As far as I know, I've been told, I've read, I've seen videos, I've done my research. More of this chassis has been sold than any other Husqvarna design. So therefore, it's worth delving into and seeing what we got to do to make these things scream, because nearly everybody has one, and if they don't, they could easily get one. And so if we figure out the formula of what it takes to make these things really kick ass, that's just doing the community a big favor, right? So that's why I chose this. Not because I like the 55 so much, not because it's got so much potential, but it's because they're everywhere. It's probably the most common saw that there is, period. You know, the 50, 51, and 55 are so super common. So if we can figure this out, then that'll make a lot of people happy, because this is a saw that a lot of people can have fun with and play with and race. And so yeah, back to the grindstone. You know, got to figure out what's holding it back now. And I guess it's got to be the carb and the entire intake setup. More to come.